As you know, I love bringing in guests and discussing about whatever with them here on Tatiana Time. Today I brought in a very special guest who I'll be interviewing and discussing about ... because you'll be finding out later on here on this very episode. Enjoy! Welcome back, guys. Your host here, Tatiana Diomi, and on this very special episode for upcoming artists, today I'm here with
Faven.
Faven. He's a very talented artist, digital artist. If do you consider yourself that, or?
Yes, I feel like I would consider myself a digital artist, but I do use traditional art sometimes, especially for school, and to sketch and just to practice.
Ooh, okay, we'll definitely get more into that in this interview. But how did your start in art begin? Like, how long have you been an artist for? Like, what is your art background? Any influences? Explain your artistry.
I would say that my art journey began when I was a child. Like, I've always drawn based on the shows that I watched. I was always influenced by the cartoons that was always like the prettiest, in my opinion. Like, I always loved watching Sailor Moon or Winx Club. And I started pursuing art more seriously about 5 years ago. So my initial learning was self-taught, but after I started studying in classes for the studio art program in college, it kind of helped me refine my skills, and I started getting more influenced by art styles like bleach and modern digital artists that I see online. I feel like discovering Pinterest was a really significant role in shaping my work because you can always make boards for what inspires you, and it doesn't always have to be about art. It could be about like anything random like clothes or beaches or just crafting short stories.
Ooh, I feel like one, I love the show Winx Club. It was one of my favorite shows that I grew up with, and influences when it comes to your art. And I think I also wanted to say how I kind of do see there's this one show, I'm not sure what it's called, but your your artistic style kind of gives a bit of a, I don't know, early 2000s show, if that
Oh my
makes sense.
gosh. Yes.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
Yes. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. I love the 2000s. I love dressing my characters in any clothes that's from the 2000s, especially the girl characters because oh my gosh, I love the tops from the 2000s. When I think of some shows that it might be inspired by, but I might not have seen yet, maybe MTV Downtown,
Ooh, I
but
feel
I'm
like
not
I've heard
sure.
of that show.
It was like a teen show in the 2000s or maybe late 1990s.
Yeah, you're right. No. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I was like, your artistic style definitely resembles that.
Oh yeah, thank you. I've gotten I haven't heard of it, but it's the show called 16, and it's like a Canadian show and um
Mm-hmm.
cartoon. Let me see. Yeah, it's called 16 and it looks pretty cool too. But yeah, I always love the idea of having characters in a 2000 setting because it feels like everyone is able to communicate better and it doesn't have to involve a phone. I feel like drawing plots that don't involve phones is so much more fun for some reason, for me at least.
Hmm. I see that. And is this how I guess you go about when it comes to your to visuals or sketches in general?
Um, I would say so. Yeah. I feel like when it comes to visuals, I like to focus more on expressions before fixing any mistakes. Like I like to give like a cool cartoony vibe like with poses. But then after that, I usually just try to focus on symmetry or proportions. and just focusing on things like warm lighting and vibrant colors and bright expressions.
Hmm. And in what genre would you define your art? Is it like experimental? Is it like genre blending of some sort?
Well, I feel like I would describe my art as contemporary. Um, I would see it as like drawing cartoons in the same way that a lot of popular shows or comics would, but I wouldn't say that it's a fully developed style. I'm always trying to see what's something new that I could do, and I'm always open to what my style could develop as in the future.
Mm. And when you speak about future, do you maybe want to go into that? Like, what maybe like what other styles do you plan on maybe like exploring?
I would say that I want to explore the idea of having a full fleshed out comic. But as for styles, I feel like I might still stay in the realm of a cartoon or a cartoon show. I have done realism before, but I feel like I'm starting to like lean away from that realm of artwork. Although I find it very beautiful, I feel like creating cartoons is just so much more fun for me.
That's cool. So like for now, like I guess you're staying in that area, you're staying comfortable in that area. Like not saying that you don't want to try other things, but that's like I guess like what you've been building up on like as a skill, if that makes
Yes.
sense.
Yes. I would say so, yes. Especially because I'm starting to become more interested in animation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I'm looking more into simplifying my style or at least delving into different styles that could still be considered my own and fully fleshed out, but maybe something a little bit more rendered versus something that could be easy to draw in a very like long period of time. Like how in animations, it's usually 24 frames per second
Mm-hmm.
or 12 frames per second, and having to keep redrawing and redrawing the exact same character a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I feel like that may also be an option in the future.
Mm. And have you been looking at any say any like influences when it comes to animation? And I don't know if this is a good one. Have you also thought about like say making mixed media animation?
Honestly, it has been an option in my mind for a very long time. I have friends that make mixed media animations, and whenever I see what they're able to do with like simply printing out pictures and then drawing over them and compositing it all together, it looks so beautiful. And I feel like that's definitely something I would love to explore in the future, especially possibly even creating backgrounds where they might be some sort of collage or mixed match of mixed media animation and traditional animation.
Hmm. And speaking of like also I think like we brought up skills earlier.
Mhm.
Have you taken any like art classes or like have you been like, expanding your skills through through those classes? Like what have you been learning about yourself?
Great question. So I have not taken an art class before until I entered college. So, because it's just because I entered college as an art major, I was
Mm,
put into fundamental courses and it was very broad. For example, I was given a class on the fundamentals of drawing and then the fundamentals of sculpture, but it was something completely different from what I thought it would be. It wasn't like we were taught rules of how to create a certain like medium, like how in sculpture you might have to learn how to create a perfect human shape in a certain material. Instead, it was more about using a material, seeing which one is like best for you, and then honing in on your skills and experimenting. Because one thing that I will say is that the classes that I had to take, they really did not want to stress students out with being perfect.
mm,
And I learned that I was a bit of perfectionist after taking these classes and having to be around a medium that I had never used before, like sculpture. And I feel like because of that, I learned that I really enjoy having to work through problems and having to learn on the scene and having um, to keep improving upon myself.
Mm. I like how especially in art classes, like they don't stress like, nothing has to be like perfect or anything. And like I feel like well, taking art classes in the past, like definitely like feel like you have to, I guess, like I don't know, in a way compete with yourself when it comes
Mhm.
to creating your art. So like have you like, I guess, faced any like obstacles or challenges, like not only like I guess taking an art class, but just like making your art in general?
Yes, I would definitely say that. I actually ran into two very important problems throughout my art journey in school, and that was having to create completely different types of art and having it due in the exact same space of time, while
Mm.
also having to face burnout. Because
Mm.
being in school for art, that was the very first time that a hobby, no matter how passionate I was turned into actual work with
Mm-hmm.
assignments. And I feel like through that experience, it's really hard to feel like, oh, instead of, oh, why don't I create some art today? Instead, feeling I have to create art today. And that switch was a little hard to go through. But at the end of the
Mm.
day, I feel like I was able to do give or take. Like, while yes, I don't exactly want to create a sculpture right now, I'm not really in the mood technically if it were just a hobby. It's
Yeah.
okay because I can at least put something that I used to love or something I really enjoy doing, for example, character design or making cute characters, and just putting that and making a mix and match. And I feel like I really learned about that give or take, especially in my second semester of school.
Mm. And is there any methods you want to mention when it comes to facing these like challenges? I think you've mentioned some, or if you want to go into any others that you're comfortable with sharing.
That's a great question. I would say the first thing is to never be hard on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I would say this because a lot of time the artists that you meet are also visionaries. Like they can imagine what exactly that they want to do, and they really want to have that exact same thought in their brain and put it towards something that's real. But sometimes I feel like it's hard to accept that the skills in your brain and your imagination won't exactly match up perfectly to the skills that you have on hand or the experiences that you have on hand. For example, I went into a sculpture having these huge, intricate ideas, but I had literally never made a sculpture before. So I feel like it's good to have lowered expectations,
Mm-hmm.
but that doesn't mean that you have to like things don't have to be perfect. You can always improve upon yourself, but you have to go through at least 1,000 failures to get like 100 successes. Because I mean,
Mm.
failure is the way to get a success, even though it might not feel as good. Yeah,
It will still help you in the long run, if that makes sense.
totally. I totally feel like that's the case. And also,
Mm.
I
Mm-hmm.
feel like as anyone, I feel like it's really important to take time for yourself and to have a lot of blocks of time where you're not even thinking about creating any art, because at least
Mm-hmm.
then it won't consume you and you won't feel like a really big burning pressure to complete something when um, you're already tired or you're already mentally drained.
Mm. And I feel like that also goes into like not only creating art but also sharing your art when you're also like in charge of an art page that you own or like a brand that you own. And I definitely want to go into like the website that you own as well, where you sell your own merchandise that you create from your art.
Mhm.
And like, do you maybe want to go into like what type of like merchandise have you sold, and like what was the process behind like creating your own art store?
Okay, this is a great question. Thank you for asking.
Mhm.
So the merchandise that I've sold so far are prints, stickers, custom commissions and clothing.
Mm.
Um, well, setting up the art store, it involved a pretty user friendly process called a Shopify account, and then being able to design merchandise called a Printify account. And while designing the stores, the admin is able to give you a lot of really nice options that are free to choose what colors you'd like or how your store would be guided. And I decided to choose warm colors for the store to match my art's theme. And I really wanted to showcase something on the front page of my online store called the Tigray collection, where I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to raise awareness for what's going on in Tigray, which is a northern region in Ethiopia, where they're going through a humanitarian crisis. So I also wanted to include that.
I love that. That's really amazing that you're putting your own art into good use and also just like giving back as well. And do you also want to maybe go more into that?
Oh my gosh, yes, thank you. So for the Tigray collection, when I first thought that up, first
Mm-hmm.
it started because the Tigray humanitarian crisis started in 2020 when there was a lot of conflict in the area involving civil unrest. And a lot of the harm went to civilians, not just the soldiers that happened to be fighting as well. And a lot of people in Tigray, they're very like faithful people who are usually very welcoming and very kind, but they had to go through something very traumatic that I wish upon no one in the world. And I first started trying to use my art in that community by trying to get into auctions. Like, for example, there were two auctions that I was able to partake in. One of them was called the HPN organization, and the HPN stands for Health Professionals Network for Tigray Charity. And I was able to help raise money for humanitarian aid for that organization, as well as the Debit Media Group in Jacksonville, Florida. So that was really great. That I was able to be a part of.
Wow. No, no, that's really cool. And I love that you're doing this. And it's just, again, it just, it feels as though like a lot of people, like when it comes to using their art, sometimes, I don't know if this makes sense, but some people use it for selfish reasons,
Oh,
if that
wow.
makes sense. Like, not in a way to, like, I don't know, like, more so in a way where it's like, when it comes to, I guess, like, selling things, but like, I don't know how to explain it. But like, if it's like maybe like for more so malicious intent, then like, if that makes sense.
Oh, selling artwork for malicious intent? Um, haven't really heard much about that. The most I would say is when I think of like TikTok shop or something where they up price for selling things, but I'm not sure about that. Haven't really heard. Could you expand further?
Mm, I'm trying to think. I don't know, like in a way, like I'm trying to think,
Yeah, take your time, no
like,
problem.
like in a way, like I'll say like I don't know if this makes sense,
Hmm.
but like ripping art off of somebody else's
Oh,
art, or like in a way, or like claiming something, or no, like in a way, kind of scamming others, like because I've seen, I think people will like sell their art and say they're like, this is what I mean, I'm sorry, sell their art and say they're selling it, not selling it, but using that money that they're getting to, like, I guess donating it to a company or something. But really, not only are they scamming, they're like, I guess they're like buyers and stuff. but also scamming those who like actually need that money, and they're not using that money like they're not putting that money towards donations. They're like, again, I don't know if that makes sense. That's what I think that was trying to say in the beginning.
Oh, yeah, I have heard of that. I have heard of that.
Yeah.
Especially with songs and I haven't really seen that too much with artwork, but I have seen cases, yes. Yeah, I feel like that's really sad. It really shows that like sometimes there's a lot of greed and there's a lot of like organizations that are well known, but there are
Hmm.
cases where they are suspicious. Like, you know how the Red
Mm-hmm.
Cross, they said that they would build homes in Haiti and then they built only 2 homes and apparently they had raised millions
Wow.
of dollars and I wouldn't say fact check me on the exact number, but they had like, oh my gosh, apparently there was a lot of like nonprofits that sometimes they just do suspicious things even though they're well known. I can only
Hmm.
imagine like how much people have been able to lose and it's
Yeah.
really unfortunate.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, as for the artists out there, definitely be careful when it comes to, I guess, like collaborating with like a lot of nonprofit organizations. And like what I'm saying is like I'm not questioning the organization that you're collaborating with
Totally.
for yeah, for donations, but I guess like some, in a way, and I think this is what I was trying to say in the in the beginning, like some
Hmm.
organizations will rip off artists completely and use their artwork in a way it's like, I guess, like promo in a way, but not really like helping for their own benefit, and not helping for the benefit they're also like trying to help as well, like the cause they're trying to help. And it's also the same thing, like back and forth, like with artists scamming their like buyers and audience and saying, okay, like buy this artwork and I'm going to donate to this charity or organization. It doesn't happen, and they keep the money for themselves. That's what I'm saying when it comes to like when artists like when it comes to them being self.
Hmm.
Yeah, but oh, do you also want to go into like, I guess, what kind of artwork you've sold?
Oh, yes. Um, Usually the artwork that I sell has to do with the Tigray collection. Um, Mostly because I was able to have a lot of really gracious family members who were able to support and spread the word, which I really
Hmm.
appreciate. But some of the pieces that I found that were also popular that weren't related to Tigray had to do with my character called Cupid. I made like heart stickers with her on it and sweatshirts and posters, and I feel like those have done well. I'm also looking to expand my posters, but until then, those are my best-selling um, works.
Hmm. And with those works, do they consist of like sorry, like consist of like any I say like any artworks that you've done in the past, or like new ones that you like drawn for this collection?
I would say that my very favorite artwork is called the Ashenda Girls, and it's my favorite because it had to do with a very popular holiday in Tigray called Ashenda, where it depicts the artwork itself depicts 3 women who are dressed in traditional clothing that are celebrating the holiday because the holiday is meant to celebrate friendship
Mm.
and just celebrating women. So I just wanted to include that all the women are holding hands because they're all friends and they're all very happy. And when I first created that artwork about a year ago, there was still quite a bit of civil unrest at the time.
Yeah.
So I wanted to just capture the spirit of unity and celebration to incorporate the beautiful landscape in the back and to include like bright things like bright flowers to convey joy, even though it wasn't really the best time to be a woman in Tigray at the time because of what was going
Yeah.
on.
Mm. I see. So in a way, like you're representing, or in a way also, I guess, putting out more so not taking away the issue, but also putting it like, oh, like what how can I say this, sorry, traditions, or like what's part of the culture in a way. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes, that makes sense. Yeah, I would say that it has to do with just celebrating the culture, and not trying to hide what's going on, but instead just showing a brighter light onto how these women
Mm-hmm.
celebrate each other.
And in general, for our next question, is that
Mhm.
the I guess type of story you want to tell in your art, or is there any like stories that you told in your art in general?
That is a great question. Yes, that is the story that I would love to tell with my art. I really like the idea of having happiness be the central point or having friendships be the central point. But other than that, a lot of the stories that I explore are stories that like I go through or any of my friends go through. Things that are simple like going to the beach or going shopping or like having a certain dream to buy a certain like clothing item, things that like I feel like any teen would be going through. But I do want to expand and see what other stories I can tell. I really would
Mm,
like to create a fleshed out story soon and be able to really deliver something that's good and really happy so everyone would be able to see it and depict a really nice type of friendship. Usually with slice of life and maybe a little bit of romance.
ooh.
Ooh.
And I know you've already answered this, but
Mhm.
is that also the type of impact you want to leave when it comes to your art, or do you want to go more into the impact you're putting out for?
I would say that yes, that is the impact that I would really like to have in my art. Um, while I do grow up, though, I realize that my platform really should show other stories and have an even broader impact than just simply being happy. I feel like I really want to show things like womanhood and being able to be strong in the face of something bad happening, as well
Mm,
as how people would be able to go through situations that are a little confusing, like not being able to speak to a friend for a long time or having to deal with the fallout of a relationship, for example. I feel like those
mhm,
are the stories or the impacts that I want to give. I want people to feel like what you're going through, it's very normal. It's just part of growing up and just being someone who hasn't really done something like this before. And I feel like
mm.
those are the types of stories I would like to tell.
Ooh, I can't wait to see those once they come out.
Me too. I can't wait to share it with everyone.
Yes, and I also want to go into like the process, like I guess behind your art. Like, what is it like creating it? Like, what type of mindset are you in when you're creating your art?
That is a great question. Usually, before I create any art, I really like to imagine what idea I'd like. Or for example, sometimes an idea just lands on me after like going out with some friends or going on vacation or even like going to school and having like a really wacky interaction while I'm going to class. So first what I do is I like to take a sketchbook and I create
Mm,
very small messy drawings called thumbnail drawings. Usually I create like 3 or 4 where I decide, okay, for example, if the concept is shopping or if the concept is going to the beach. The first thing I think of, okay, these characters are at the beach. Where will they be in the scene? Who will be in the front? Who will be in the back? Will there be any like location specifically in the back? And after like some trial and error, I decide, okay, why don't I draw this scene? And then I start by sketching out without worrying about how it looks, but more like the expression or like the flow of what's going on. Like, for example, instead of worrying about how the face looks, I'll worry about, okay, like if she's about to throw a volleyball, like, is her arm back enough? Does it make sense? Is the camera going to be angled? Will that make sense? And then
mhm,
after that, I go into line art, which is basically just drawing in the details, like how her eyes will look, or how her hair will look, or how his shirt will look. And then after that, I start coloring, which I think is the most fun part because I love creating artwork with really vibrant colors. So usually I have an idea of what the palette will be. What's really fun is like if you take a really beautiful picture from Pinterest, and then for the program that I use, which is Procreate on iPad, if you
Mm.
put it in, if you have like a palette list that the app comes with, you can add a picture as the palette list. And if you have a really pretty picture with a lot of really vibrant colors, you won't have to worry later about, oh, what color should I pick, because you have like a really nice assortment that blends together. That's my favorite thing to do. And after coloring, then I just put everything together by like just tweaking out any details that I would like to add. And that's my full process.
Mm. And I think, oh, I didn't want to interrupt you. I think it was something that you mentioned. It'll come back to me. I wanted to ask you a question or something, but is there any other softwares that you use when it comes to your art? And also, like, what type of materials do you use too?
Great question. I primarily use Procreate, and I'm looking into creating artwork on animation software soon.
Hmm.
So I do have experience with a program called Toon Boom Harmony, which is what I learned in school, and that's the animation software. As for materials, for Procreate, I like to use a lot of custom brushes that I get from other artists online. But primarily for for traditional artwork, I really enjoy using mechanical pencils and really thin outlined pens, primarily in like red or navy or black. And I like to use oil pastels a lot, especially because oil pastels are super vibrant and they're really easy to blend. And
Hmm.
they're pretty like um, fun for anyone, really. I think if anyone ever uses oil pastels, I recommend it for everyone. It's really fun.
Yeah, I remember physically using oil pastels, like
Mm-hmm.
I think in an art class once, and like I'm not gonna lie, they blend very easily.
Oh my
Like,
god. Yeah.
yeah, especially when I was like using my fingers, I think also to like blend everything. Like there's one time, I think one time in class we were like, I guess like my art teacher was doing like a tutorial on like using oil pastels. Yeah. Sorry for going off topic, but yeah.
Oh, no problem. I really enjoyed talking about anything art related. Yeah, it's fun. Oil pastels, they just like make you feel like a kid because you're literally just blending it with your fingers. It feels like an upgraded version of like a crayon.
Yes, especially what is that one material? Like a charcoal pen or pencil. I don't know,
Hmm.
you can also blend with those as well if you're like working with shadows and stuff.
Oh my gosh, yeah. It was really
Yeah.
fun when I was able to. I used charcoal like a little bit before in like a high school art class,
Mm.
but it was really fun because we had to use charcoal for one of my art classes for drawing in college. And that was so fun because it blends so easily. And my hands are always like
Yeah.
covered in charcoal by the end of class.
That's the fun part.
Yeah.
Yes. And also going to like we've talked about this like I think like after the intro in the beginning of the
Hmm.
episode. But I guess like also considering yourself as a either a digital or physical artist since you
Hmm.
also have skills working around with both digital and physical tools, art tools. So
Hmm.
do you feel like you're in between or is there like one side that you're more comfortable with?
Um, Honestly, I feel like I would be a bit in between, only because with digital artwork, right?
Hmm.
There are so many options that you can do with one program. You can like, if you have a problem with how something looks, instead of just having to erase, you can also like lasso tool something and then move it to a different spot.
Hmm.
And you literally have unlimited colors, and you have unlimited choices for what pens you want to use, and unlimited size. And while that is amazing, it's really common for it to be start getting overwhelming and to start second guessing what colors to use or how perfect something should look. And I usually get caught up in that problem myself a lot because the whole thing about art is it's not really supposed to be perfect. It is self
Mm-hmm.
expression, or it's like whatever you want to design at the moment. So, excuse me, going back to traditional art, it kind of loosens you up because all you have is an eraser, a pencil, or a pen, or materials in a certain amount of colors. And I feel like that really allows me to sometimes create even better drawings compared to digital because you're just more loose and you're not as like unconsciously aware that okay, I can make a million options, so like let me make it as perfect as possible, when that shouldn't be how it's about. So I feel like with traditional art and digital art, I use them for different things. Like for digital art, I really enjoy using it primarily, but once I get a little too caught up into like the whole like spiral of making it perfect, I go back to traditional and I feel like it really loosens me up. And it's also really good for practice. It's good to have something that you actually is like it's real and not just
Mm-hmm.
on the tablet. Yeah.
Mm. And also, I wanted to go back into
Mhm.
something that you mentioned, that art is also self-expression, which
Mhm.
is completely true. But there's this saying that it's like, I think it's either that art is subjective. I think
Mhm.
that's the saying. What do you think about that?
I do feel like art is subjective totally. And I feel like I learned that in art school because I remember like do you ever hear about how people go to a modern museum and then they look at a painting with like a streak of black or a streak of red and they're like, "Oh my gosh, this is the best artwork ever." Or they don't
Yes.
understand why is this random scribble like in a museum?
Hmm.
After being in art school, there was a lot of critiques where I would see like something that I didn't really understand or like understood how to define as because I'm not very familiar with abstract artwork. But after a while of hearing my classmates and my peers' responses about, oh, I feel a sense of sadness towards this artwork,
Mm.
or I feel a sense of anger, I realized that like art doesn't really have to be super defined. And I know at first it does feel crazy to go and look at abstract art and be like, oh, this feels like it's so passionate and so da da da. Because when I used to think of artwork, I think of like just paintings of realism and like paintings of human. It's kind of like people they make out what they would like with their artwork. And I realized that a lot of people were doing that with the artwork that I was creating without me realizing it until I went to the comments one time and I realized sometimes viewers would ship certain characters together and I would
Mhm.
be like, "Whoa, I didn't even see that coming." Like I didn't even see that coming. And I realized it really is all up for interpretation. So when someone would ask me, hey, like, are these two characters together? Or, like, I can't believe this happened. Like, what do you think about it? Then I would just be like, it's up for interpretation. Like, I don't know. Because it feels like I just draw whatever I feel like I wanted to draw at the moment, which I should be also creating a storyline too, but that's just how it ended up working out. And I'm just like, wow, art really is a subjective.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me of this like this reminds me of this conversation. I think it was like in one of like which class? I think it was like writing the essay,
Mm-hmm.
and I think we were talking about, does art need to be meaningful or something of the sort. And I kind of thought about it and I was like, I feel like it doesn't have to be. Like you can just create anything and it just can be out there. And like I guess if somebody asks, "Oh, what does this mean?" or "What does this mean to you?" it makes me question, do you really have to answer that? Or it's just like, I don't know if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, that makes total sense. I completely get that because people, sometimes, even with artists, they can unconsciously just create something that they were feeling for a long time. And at
Mm-hmm.
that same time, as a viewer, you're putting in your own perspective into whatever you're seeing. Like, for example, if you had
Mm.
went through something before and you're seeing an artwork that reminds you of that, you're seeing your perspective in that. You're projecting what you feel towards that artwork, and vice versa. As an artist, you can learn about yourself from what you created without even realizing that was there in the first place.
Wow. No, wait. That actually makes a lot of sense. Now I see it. Yeah. Cause
Yeah.
like, yeah, cause like, no, that actually makes sense. Cause somebody can look at something and it can be anything and just again like have like relate to it somehow. I think yeah, because we were having that discussion before in class, but like that definitely makes sense. So I also wanted to ask, have you had any like I guess publications on your art? Has anybody like written about you or about your art before?
I have not have I haven't had any publications before, but I have had like how I mentioned before, some community charities reach out, and I have had two exhibitions before. While that's not a publication, it felt like something of the sort because it was a lot of talented artists that were able to get together. It was
Mm-hmm.
called Wacky Interacti. It was actually NYU student led, um, and it was about fusion of technology and art making. And my group happened to make this insane mannequin who was having like CPU bits and having computer parts like sewed onto chainmail, as well as things like wires and just frames and just a lot of really crazy things. And it happened to be like the head of the mannequin was a computer, and that was just crazy. And then the second exhibition, it was called, it was for the People of Tigray group at University of Maryland, and it was also a charity organization. It was to raising funds to build schools in Megale, which is a city in northern Ethiopia in Tigray.
Mm. Also, um, I think what is I've heard of like, oh no, I saw like everything at the wacky interactive
Hmm.
event, and it was like everything was so cool. I saw a lot of people's like different projects and stuff. And I also wanted to say like an exhibition of yours also like I counts as a publication if that makes sense. So any exhibition you've had of yourself is also like a publication. Just wanted
Oh,
to put that out there. I don't know if that makes sense, yeah.
yeah,
Cause
totally.
like I've had yeah, also like had things like of mine, like any projects of mine like exhibited before. So it's like you're again you're putting yourself out there
Right. Yeah,
publicly, yeah.
that's
Yeah.
cool. What publications have you been a part of?
So I don't want to talk about me in this interview because this is about you.
Oh,
So yeah.
right, right.
But when it comes to art, I will say like because we were speaking about animation earlier and like I've done like a mixed media animation for it was a publication for Power to the People. It was for Black History Month for the IMA slash ITP program, which I'm
Mhm.
part of. So
Wow.
yeah, so that was one of the exhibitions I did, but enough about that. But that's
Mhm.
just what I wanted to say, yeah.
Wow, very cool.
And I also want to go into like, mm, oh, there's this question usually what I ask a lot of artists on this series, and
Mhm.
it usually stops them in their tracks. But define yourself as an artist in one word and explain why.
Um, I would say passionate. I would say
Mm,
that I'm passionate when it comes to my art because I love it so much and I love creating things so much. It makes me want to continuously keep creating things and to continuously keep improving. And like while I'm passionate about what I create, I'm also really passionate about learning how to be better when it comes to my art, because it feels like I keep wanting to just get better and better so that I can create a full-fledged store one day, or to create something that actually feels like something very professional and something that could be out there, like the shows that I used to watch as a kid.
Mm,
So I would say passion.
that's nice. That's a also very like nice word to put into like but what you're saying and like why you're very passionate about your artwork. There's two sides of the passion if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And last question, do you have any advice for any upcoming artists?
I would say that my advice for any upcoming artists would be to stay true to your vision and to keep embracing feedback, but make sure it's like you're asking for the feedback, or make sure it's constructive criticism. Don't ever accept anyone that's trying to tear you down, and to never stop learning. And especially when it comes to trying to live with an art career, I feel like everyone who wants to actually like really dive into a career in the arts should totally create an account and start building an online presence, because even though art is like, someone could have really good art, if they don't have a presence, it can be harder to break through the art world. Because I wish it wasn't like that, but sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it really depends, because art, it's not like one of those corporate structures where you're able to, like, once you get your foot in the door, it all has to do with how hard you work. It's just it's very interesting. It's an interesting industry, and everyone who is ever trying to create a presence, don't ever feel that because one post doesn't really do well that you didn't do
Mm-hmm.
good, because sometimes how your art reaches people, it's just through an algorithm, or it's just through engagement. And um, don't ever be too hard on yourself when it comes to building a presence. Just be dedicated and be persistent, and network with other artists always. I'm always really, really, really advocating for networking, and be open to exploring new opportunities and taking risks, because I feel like that's really important too, especially creative risks.
Yes. No, I love that. And like I love how you also put out like a lot of reminders and those reminders also in a way help me too. And I think also it's you're also saying, it's important to be consistent, not only with your presence either online or like in the, out there, but also like with yourself, but to at the same time to like give yourself a break if that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally. I am 100% for breaks. That's also part of my advice. Always take breaks.
There you go, yeah. And just also to never be afraid, like I like how you also put out that algorithm reminder too. Cause that's something that I also had to, deal with as well. Just, reminding myself that like if something doesn't do too well, it's like it's not really me, but at the same time, it's like I know there's like gonna be somebody out there who's gonna appreciate it either way. So can't really like remove it and like repost it just to get more like of a following or anything, just leave it out there if that makes sense.
Right. I totally agree.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Faven. It was so nice meeting you, but also talking to you and talking about your artistry.
Thank you, Tatiana. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Is there anything else you want to add or say or give a shout out to?
Um, I would like to say shout out to my family and my friends for supporting me through all of my journeys and all through all of my phases. And I'm so happy that I'm able to reach a place where I'm able to be asked by such a talented podcast creator like Tatiana.
Thank you. No, I'm just glad, to have you on and just like to speak to you. And also, guys, please check out Faven's art and also her Tigray collection as well. Are you adding anything new to the collection as well for anybody
Actually,
to buy or?
yes. I do need an update to the collection, as I posted some pretty nice beach artworks that I also shout out to. So that update is coming soon. And I can't wait.
Yes, I'll put her Instagram also in the description as well so you guys can check her out. And please follow and also, keep up with updates, especially when it comes to the collection as well.
All right. Thank you so much, Tatiana.
Of course, thank you. You have a good day.
You too. Have a great day.
Bye.
Bye.